What is good? Welcome to a new episode of the Panties in the Mouth podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Andy Malafarina, with, as always,
Nate Marshall.
Yeah, Nathan
Marshall.
Marshall.
Go off so bad.
You're trying to be professional because we have a real guest this time, and that guest himself is the one and only Mike Cannon. Mike, how you doing, man?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me. What constitutes as real? Do you typically have like flesh bots or some sort of sexual dumpster sitting in?
We just have buddies who we don't respect.
We just have buddies who we think like, because that's what you're supposed to do. When in actuality, me and Nate just want to sit here and get real deep on like conspiracies and fucking porn stars' butts and stuff like that.
Those are the topics we excel at.
That's the scope of the show. Hell yeah.
We really do try to get real fucking like topical and sound like we know something, and then it just evolves into being like, yo, Wayfair's fucking weird, dude.
But don't you think, I mean, that Wayfair thing, 10 grand for both an armoire and a child is a full-blown steal. Like,
dude, it's a deal.
That's a baby goes for like $250,000.
I laughed when I saw that because I was like, I think I saw like one of them was $40,000, and I was just like, man, that's expensive for a kid. And I'm like, is it? And now you have to go into a sector of your mind where you're trying to decide how much a child should cost. And
that's like a group home kid. Like that's the low level. No parents. Yeah, exactly. Just not a free range child. It's been totally restricted most of its life.
That's a kid that's happy to be owned.
Yeah. Yeah, at least that's its first trip ever outside of its basement is the shipping container to Baltimore.
Yeah, he's like, I may get my face fucked every day, but I got a race car bed, so you gotta weigh out the options.
Yeah. Otherwise, in my other country, it was nails.
You used to host a conspiracy podcast, right?
Yeah, dude, for 3 years. Just took ear beatings.
Did it get too? It got too far.
It's not even too far because we like. I mean, this is also at maybe the most destructive part of my life, like drinking wise and substance abuse wise. So I was like, running into this podcast, damn near blackout drunk, screaming at a conspiracy theorist for an hour a week. It was ridiculous. But we got, we talked about Sandy Hook. We talked about Boston Marathon, like 9/11. Like we got into the really dark, shitty ones that nobody really wants to talk about. What killed it was one of the hosts just became a staunch flat earther. And so every conversation we were like, whatever, dude, like if you're going to believe that, fine. But, then we'd talk about aliens. He'd be like, don't exist. There is no space. The other planets are sentient beings. Everybody's gay. And it's like, all right.
I can get there. I can almost get. I'm not a flat earther, but I do subscribe to the Matrix theory that this is all a simulation. I'm definitely not dismissing that at all. I mean, the flat earth thing, it's a bummer because there's like cool conspiracy and everything, especially with what's going on, and it seems to be in plain sight, but they like demand to make it Game of Thrones. Like this is it.
Yeah, it's like, no, dude, it's people in suits. It's not lizards.
Yeah. Oh shit.
The flat. What was I gonna say? The part about the flat earther one that gets me the most irritated is if I was arguing with a flat earther, I'd be like, "You really think the Earth is flat, you idiot?" And they'd be like, "Well, prove that it's not." And I'd be like, "All right."
Yeah.
God damn it.
Dude, that's the thing, is it's a war of attrition trying to like battle a flat earther because they just weighed out your math. So like the onus is all of a sudden on you because they've claimed every photo is fake of the curvature of the earth. So now you all of a sudden have to prove the shape of the earth without any of the tools available, and they don't have to do shit because, they're dicks.
Because their reality is so ridiculous. They're like, no, just
Yeah. They're speaking of a place from a place of such righteousness. It's not even a theory at this point. It's not a conspiracy. It's a religion. The people that buy into flat Earth, if you get deep enough on the questioning, it's because they don't want to believe that we're on a rock hurtling through an infinite abyss and we are not the center of the universe. They want to believe that we are godlike and the entire universe is focused in on us.
Yeah.
Did you see? I forget what the hell it was called. I think it was on Netflix. Didn't they had like a flat earther documentary? And it's
my ex-host was on it.
Was he?
Yeah, dude. He's gotten better credits than me from just being a fucking lunatic, and good for him, to be honest.
I can't. Did you start watching it, Andy?
Yeah. I watched it a while ago. I was gonna bring up the part that was like crazy to me is like you forget they're just like they're still like they're still people who have normal things about them, and they have like, I don't know. The part that stuck out was like there's flat earther celebrities, and like they went to the flat earther convention, and you just see these like people being like, "Oh my god, can I get a picture?" Like, I need this for the IG. Also, everything's a lie. It's like such a weird reality they live in.
Dude, 100%. My guy, my podcast co-host on YouTube is pretty well known, especially within the flat earth community. He has a podcast and it's creatively titled The Flat Earth Podcast. He's been on he's been on Chris Jericho's show. He's on Sam Tripoli's show. He's making the rounds. So he's people want to hear him out because it's fucking interesting to like watch the unraveling of somebody.
Really? So he was a little more. So you noticed like a slow, I guess, decline is the right word?
No, he was dead on arrival. When I met him, it was, he was full bore. Sandy Hook was fake. The school didn't even exist. Those children never existed. Like fully in on what Wolfgang Halbig did, which this guy was such a psychopath. He led the charge to basically harass the parents of Sandy Hook victims. Yeah. People would show up at their house being like, prove your kid ever existed. And they're like, what? It's like insane fucking, awful troll shit.
Except they mean it. Mm-hmm. That they feel it in their soul.
Yeah, except they mean it. And it's usually like all the people, this is like deep existential conspiracy shit, but every person and it might not be true, but this is from my personal data pool, everybody that we ever interviewed that was hardcore all in to conspiracy had like a major life trauma that caused their awakening. So once they experienced like some life-changing shit that broke their spirit, all of their interest was then projected into looking at how the world was fucking them over. It was so clearly like slanted against them, which it is, but like, they don't want to look internally where the real 9/11 happened.
In their hearts.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, that sounds like the same pathway. It sounds like a similar pathway. Like a lot of people, you hear like that happens to a lot of pedophiles. Like they had some sort of trauma, and now I'm just picturing there's like one flat earther pedophile who no one wants to be around.
There's got to be more than one.
That's fair. That's fair.
They got a lot of time by themselves, like the pedophile. They just get into flat earth just off of boredom. Like I got to find something. I got nobody to talk to.
Dude, did you see that story? And this guy isn't a pedophile, but like I just watched it today of some dude that was on The Voice, and he like was one of the most wild rapists in the UK history. And they just caught him in 2019, and he was like touring live with The Voice UK.
Nah, I didn't hear about that.
Dude, it's crazy. And he apparently was like, so he had this long, decades long career of like just violently assaulting and raping women, did The Voice, got like a little bit of fame, and he looks like a fucking toy soldier weirdo. And then while he was on tour with their company, with their touring thing, he was also assaulting women.
Yeah, I just Googled voice rapist trying to find this story, and it just doesn't bring up good articles.
That's hilarious. Imagine I just made this up.
just to get me to Google some off the Wall Street.
Just to get your fucking...
That's how I plan a conspiracy about Carson Daly. I'm like, it was him.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You just like find out like after he was doing all this shit, and you're like, oh, you know that guy you put a bunch of money behind? Fucking piece of garbage.
Yeah, dude. That's like Vince Champ shit too. The way that I think they similarly found him because of the trajectory of the tour. You know that about that guy, Vince Champ?
Oh, the comedian, right?
Yeah, he's like the original OG, comedian rapist. And they didn't have the internet or anything like that. They just charted the victims, and they were like, what the fuck is this? They checked like traveling salesmen, like tour, musicians, all this stuff. And they like matched his tour schedule to these assaults. And that's how they got him.
Damn.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's fucking crazy. That's yeah, and then Law and Order got inspired and made the show.
Oh yeah, where the rape joke comedian was the actual rapist.
and then like 6 cops sit in the front row and like mean mug you the whole time.
Oh, that is the best. What a great situation that is. Also, Vince Champ was totally clean. Bill Cosby, totally clean.
That right, he was because in the Law and Order episode, wasn't the comic being like,
yeah, it was a rape.
You know what's fucking sick? Rape, and the audience is like, yeah, more.
Well, because this was during that, like, remember when it might have been when all those like blogs and all those, kind of like the. What is it? I'm trying to think of the fucking thing. Whatever, like feminist blogs that have now since blown up.
It was around like the Daniel Tosh thing.
Oh, Daniel Tosh, Sam Morril, the great rape joke debate of like 2012 or whatever, as Kurt Metzger called it. But Jim Norton went on W. Kamau Bell's show to debate that woman, Lindy West. Yeah, and they debated what was funny, and she was saying that it's never funny, even though she made like 3 rape jokes during the interview, which was interesting. And they all killed. Yeah, they all killed.
The thing that annoyed me about that interview is like Norton was just hitting her with like good arguments and stuff, and I remember her just getting to a point where she's like, well, I just, it's just, I don't think it's very funny. And I'm like, is that what we're arguing about?
Right. Yeah.
You're just like, that's how you got on a TV show?
But that's when the Law and Order thing, that episode came out of that. So it birthed out of like this huge, because that's when all that stuff came out in all those different papers. New York Times, I think, even published something about it. There was all those opinions about whether or not rape could ever be funny. And so they did that stupid episode.
Law and Order taking a stand.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the guy should have been like fucking Brian Regan. He should have been like completely clean and then snatching chicks, into his road car.
The dude should have just been on that show, just like, you park on a driveway and drive on a parkway. Like, I wanted to say, I saw on social media your son just hit a year old. Congratulations!
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Friday.
I was curious because you're a year old. You're a new father. How's that been going?
I mean, it's awesome. It's legitimately, the best. And I mean, it's obviously weird considering the circumstances, but I'm lucking out in the sense that I'm probably spending the most time I'll ever spend consecutively with my son in my life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We've been 100% spending time together, and it's the greatest. I'm not on the road. I'm not, I'm doing some spots sometimes, but that's like, 1 every 2 weeks or something, or a week. And then for the most part, I'm just working out of home and doing podcasts and shit.
Go, Nate.
No, go ahead. My question was dumb about
stand-up. I was gonna say that's like that's a decent trade-off. Like, obviously you want to be doing stand-up, but if you're like, I'm not on stage, well, I got to watch him, learn what the color green was.
Yeah, it's totally worth 120,000 lives. Honestly, I'd pay 100K American lives for this experience again. I would do it again. In fact, I'm gonna.
Oh yeah, definitely. There's definitely
maybe this winter. Who knows?
Oh, that'll be the new fucking conspiracy.
It's already going. And the thing, there's so many interesting like storylines about it because God knows what's really going on, and there are some cover-ups, and people are misreporting, and it's like, was it weaponized? What the fuck's going on? But then people are like, it doesn't exist, and I am not wearing a cloth face.
Oh, dude, and then you want to just like, I want to just because I don't want to let the fucking crazy part of me run too wild, and you want to be sensible and this and that, and then you
do it.
And then you see, but like, did you guys see the picture of Fauci at the baseball game? He's just chilling in the stands, like nuts to butts with two people, and he's got his like nose out, and you're like, come on. You're forcing me to think you're a lizard, dude. Like,
yeah.
Did you see that? Did you see that video that it was like going everywhere yesterday? It was the like African lady, and she was like, I treated all these patients that we just did hydrochloroquine and such, and like they hyped her up. It was all on Fox. And then like today, I saw videos of her. They're just like made for TV infomercial things talking about how demon sperm is what causes cysts in the ovaries and miscarriage and erectile dysfunction. So the same lady who was like, I know COVID is also like demon sperm exists. So and like,
I saw a clip of that, but I didn't watch it. But I did see one comedian go, guys, like, let's just look into it. It's the best. I love people that are so open-minded they're retarded.
Oh, dude, yeah, you're talking about me. I'm too open-minded sometimes where I'll just and I remember I watched that in my bed last night, just being like, we're gonna be okay, guys. And then
it did put a little hope in you, right?
Because I feel like for in 2020, no matter what it is, like you're just getting butt fucked around every corner, and then like you see this, and you're like, it's what was the show fucking where they just go, I just want to believe, I just want to believe.
I don't know.
Yeah. X-Files. Anyway,
but that is the
I'm right there with you. I mean, a simple solution would be the fucking best. It really would. But I mean, this is, and I'm sure a ton of people have already said this, but this is like a poor showing dry run for climate change and whatever nightmare is going to befall us as civilization when that shit hits the fan.
Oh, no. I watched that doctor's other video. That's not real either. Don't worry.
It could be solved with hydrochloric.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been crazy. I'm a segue into another question, like a good interviewer. No, but it's been real crazy, and like with all the changes, because I was real curious because I saw you doing like doing outdoor shows in front of cars. That had to have been insane.
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, it was one of those things, man, where it had been like over 90 days. And I'm like, we had flattened the curve at the time, and it was just starting to be safe to have those type of things. And I was like, you can't turn it down. I feel like a crackhead a little bit. It's been every single night for 12 years, basically, this thing. So like to be without it, it sounds melodramatic, but it's a literal part of myself that didn't exist, which is, longest I've ever gone without doing stand-up. So I wanted to do it, but yeah, performing for cars was almost like live Zoom.
Did you have did you have like nerves, like that nervousness that you had? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I wanted to throw up. Dude, that show I was definitely nervous about. I was like, I wanted to do new, but I knew I had to like probably fall into something old, but like, it's just
how much
it was also exhilarating.
Yeah. How much time were you doing that like first time back?
12, I think. 12, which felt like 50.
Yeah.
I've done hours, like I did my first hours, but I did Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, and it was a 2-man show. So they're like, Sagalo, you do 25, Cannon, you want to do 50, 55? I'm like, yeah, all right, cool.
How did the crowds feel? Like I did my first like show this Saturday, just 5. I just did 5, but it felt like everybody just was like, we're just happy to be doing some shit. Mm-hmm. It didn't really even matter like what was going on. Like, did you get sort of that energy from them? Or they're like, nah, we're in a building, we paid, this feels normal.
That's the dream of it, is like, you hope that that's what it was. And there were shows like that, but like there were also, you got to think of who is attracted to going to a casino in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I didn't even think about it like that.
And you just can't escape. So it's got to be at least a section of those maniacs. And of course it was. Brendan goes out there and says hello, and instantly somebody goes, Trump 2020. And it's like, whichever way you go, that's the most divisive thing you could have yelled immediately. It's like you're really just throwing a Hadouken at me. It's the moment I got on stage for the first time in 120 days. Like, Brendan handled it great, but like that first crowd was almost like a bar fight. Like it was crazy. It reminds you of the combat comedy. And then of course there were like other shows where people literally between clapping and laughing were like, thank you, we appreciate you, keep going, like literally yelling that type of encouragement. So that made it worth it, obviously.
Yeah, that sounds dope as shit.
Yeah, I think people just want to do like regular shit. I know I was feeling that where like I'm all on board with the mask, but even like I was at Target this weekend and I still was having that like, this fucking sucks.
yeah, it does.
You're like I could get on board with it conceptually, but I could still be fucking like, it's just.
Oh, you could totally still think it blows.
Yeah,
I think that's a reasonable assessment by anybody that has to wear it. It fucking sucks. This whole situation sucks. My father-in-law is like, he's the best. He's a truther, a COVID truther, and and he started
pandemic.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hell yeah.
Beyond. So we've had, conversations, hilarious arguments, whatever. And he'd just like start going in on me. And I'm like, listen, like you're retired and not doing shit. You live here and you're this mad. I was like, my whole job is over. I was like, there's nobody more mad about this than me. Like I'm really upset. The thing I love to do most in the world is fucking dead.
Like I can't even really do it for free that often if I wanted to.
Yeah. Which of course that's the best part. Initially all these live shows are paying and but then you get the oversaturation, and now with outdoor shows, people are like, hey, if you're dying for mic time, come by, do a free set. And it's like, eat my balls, dude. I haven't made money in 5 months.
I'm gonna go broke getting there. Like I can't.
Yeah. I'll pay $17 for the bridge. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, dude. Oh, that's so funny. Like, hey, no, you just do it. You just go up there and for exposure. You're like, I want to live till the end of the week, motherfucker.
Right. Yeah. Exposure to the virus. But it's also like, I did this show. It was Cypher Sounds and Will Still Vince. It was their show. And this was the first city spot I've done since all of this that made me feel like a comic again. Because we all three of us got on after my set and like we riffed back and forth. It was super, super fun. But it's like, that was in a backyard in a building. So these things only kind of work.
Yeah.
In specific places. Otherwise, I'm like in the middle of Sheep's Meadow, Central Park, shouting at people without a microphone.
Yeah, that's the weird. That's the beautiful thing that I thought, like, I do like that. I'm getting a little like emotional with comedy, but I do like the resiliency that you see with it. Like the shit the shit in the Central Park and all that. It sucks, but at the same time, it's like it's still out.
Great,
there.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. It's like organized homelessness, though. You're shouting at people, but it's okay.
But they're listening. They're like, this one, his shirt's iron. We'll listen.
It's also like, it's a great exercise of like presence. Do you know what I mean? This is kind of out there and shit, but in terms of because it means nothing. Each show is like a week apart or whatever. It's not leading to anything. It's the only thing that matters is the show. So it's like a good. I think that's kind of a good thing to put the stakes on that 15 minutes and only that.
You know what's a whole nother mind fuck though is like you were saying this and it's completely valid, but then at the same time you'll see in the news and it'll be like so and so just signed a deal for this movie, and you're like, what's real, dude?
Yeah. I mean, listen, we're not up for movies, so yeah. So for us, it means nothing.
You did just put out a movie though, didn't you?
I did, yeah. It was on Amazon Prime. Yeah, called Timing.
That's right. No, it looked. It was funny because I heard you on your podcast before talking about it, and you really like downplayed it, but then you posted the links and shit, and I remember it was like, yo, Mike can act. And then I remember seeing you say something where you're like, I was blacked out most of it. And you're like, what's going on?
I was definitely, there's one scene, and Feeney and I go over it on Irish Goodbye. And, you know, to the editor's credit, they tried to minimize this as much as possible. But there's like a moment where I'm like,
dude, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I'm also, full disclosure, I'm trying to downplay that I listened to Mike's podcast. But when you played that,
I was trying.
Yeah, I'm trying to
don't act like you were just dabbling.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to downplay it. But like when you guys played that fucking part, for real, it like your reaction, because Mike was playing the fucking like club owner perfectly.
Right.
I'm doing you the biggest favor.
He's such a twat, just to his core.
And he was being such he was being such a cunt in the character he was playing. And then like he was just beating you down, and then your reaction of just like, oh, thank you so much. It immediately hit me in my soul where I was just like, I've been there where they're just tearing you apart, and you just have to grovel and be like, thank you so much, sir. May I have some more stage time, sir?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like, I've been there as well. I still feel like I'm there sometimes, but it's one of those things where if you don't know me, I don't know if you pick up that I'm drunk, but to us, and we can point it out that there's a moment where if you really pay attention, I'm clearly drunk.
You said blackout drunk? Like,
yeah, for sure. Like lights out, because we had shot for like 16 hours that day. And the final scene that we were supposed to do was a drinking scene between me and my co-lead. And, it's an indie movie. I'm not fucking drinking fake booze. I'm getting lit the fuck up. I didn't even think this would ever come out, to be perfectly honest. So we had like 86 drinks during a scene. And I'm like, well, my day is done. That went great. And he's like, we're sneaking another shot. And I'm like, you can't fucking be serious. Like, couldn't barely stand. And then we do this scene, and I'm just glassy eyed, like, like half growling.
It's hilarious too. It's hilarious because you just like, if you frame it in the way where you're like, he's hammered, you're like, oh yeah, I could hear it. But if you don't know that, you're like, the raw emotion from Mike Cannon.
No, so maybe I shouldn't have divulged, but honestly, I think it's hilarious to know that I'm drunk.
It's great. It's great too when you see like.
And also, I've since stopped drinking, everybody, so don't be concerned. Thank you.
Oh yeah, you've stopped drinking for what, like 2 years now?
Like 19 months.
Oh, okay.
You, bro.
What?
I said Andy gets you. You just knew.
No, but I appreciate the roundup. I mean, I don't know how long I'm going to go. It's not even like a life, or I haven't definitively made it a life choice. It was just supposed to be during my wife's pregnancy, and now
I'm genuine.
Straight edge. No,
I'm high right now. I smoke a ton of pot. Yeah.
Hey.
No, I was just curious about it, just because like I swear to God, I go week to week, like being like, should I stop? Because I don't have like a problem, but I do enjoy the I don't know. Sometimes I think about not doing it, and I'm like, is it dope?
I mean, at times, yeah. I like not waking up hungover is maybe the most underrated activity a human being can do. It is like, I mean, I still, after 19 months, I am not sick of waking up like as clear-headed as I could possibly be. Just the hangovers got so fucking brutal. My anxiety was absolutely through the roof. It crashed my depression. So it like mental health wise, it was super. It was fucking with me.
Well, yeah, because that's what I'm really curious about, because I went, what the hell? Like me and my wife were talking about it, and I noticed that when we were talking about it, like I wanted to do a break, and I noticed, your birthday's in 2 months. That's a good like goalpost. Let's stop doing it for 2 months. And I noticed, like I started sleeping better, and the mental health stuff definitely shifted, because I personally have like real bad anxiety a lot of the time. And
Same.
So did you notice like a noticeable difference?
Yeah, I mean, I feel everything. So it's like you can't even numb it for those few brief hours. But like those few brief hours for me drinking were like not worth the next day feeling it that much more ramped up. So my spikes of anxiety were more drastic and like all the time. And now it's, it's a hum where it's above 50%. I am always anxious, but now I'm doing other shit also to manage that. Whereas I don't have to battle alcohol and everything else,
What are you doing to manage it?
Like working out and stuff like that. Like I'm about to start therapy. Actually, I just I reached out to a therapist recently, and they just had like a cataclysmic life event, so they're no longer practicing for the foreseeable future. So now I'm like going online to one of those I don't know, Michael Phelps doctors or whatever.
Yeah.
What?
He isn't he the spokesman for some fucking online therapy?
Oh, like BetterHelp or whatever.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, that's it.
Yeah. I was thinking about, looking into that because I was like doing the math through my health insurance, and then I looked at BetterHelp, and I was just like, I'll just do the phone therapy, not the actual lady.
Yeah, I don't need to see somebody in the face.
Yeah, I'll just text my problems.
Why not?
Yeah. So okay, that's good to know about. Drinking less makes you feel better.
Yeah. I mean, I think it made me lose a bunch of weight too. Quarantine has kind of been difficult for, maintaining that, but it immediately sheds pounds. Obviously, you're more apt to working out because you have extra energy. You're not eating like a complete dickhead because you're not shit-faced and your decision making isn't, dulled.
Yeah.
I don't know. For me personally, like, other people can do it. I love Feeney can drink and he can function, at his top level. Shane Gillis can drink and operate at his top level. I fucking admire guys like that. I wish I could. I just for a while I couldn't.
You have this actually levels him up. He's a better human being, I think. I don't like that guy. Sober Shane?
Oh yeah, drunk Shane functions on a whole different level. I remember doing a fair one time, and you look back when he would I swear to God, he'd bring like a case of beers in, and he'd just be sharp as shit, and you see how many were behind there, and you're like, what's going on, dude? Did you also get the whole, because I know for me, like I could even have like a few beers and then like have a few beers on a Saturday, and then the next day you're just like not completely fucking there. So that's like the other incentive for me, just to have, I don't know, like it kills the next day and so on.
Yeah. I mean, I've never had a few beers in my life, but it's either like 0 or 1,000,000. I don't have that middle gear because I don't like that. I don't like the taste of alcohol. I don't enjoy any part of it besides the feeling.
Well, I'm it's funny because I'm the same way, so I have to like get in front of it where I only had a few beers because I only bought a few beers. I forced myself to only get a 6-pack. Like if I got the 12-pack, if I got the case, like I'm going through it. So I identify with that too, where like once you start, you're like, well, I just keep going until I fall over.
Yeah. Yeah, until I go to sleep, because why am I stopping?
Yeah, I don't know.
Also, I feel like, and this is probably a rationalization, but like I can't do anything once I've started drinking. Like I can't like have 2 beers and then go to the gym. You know what I mean? So if I'm drinking, I'm now committed to drinking.
That's the rest of the day.
Yeah, that's the rest of the day.
Yeah, because it sucks to like stop drinking and then you just get sleepy and you're like, and it really hits home how you just wasted the previous hours. It's just like, I'm just sleepy now and slightly fatter.
I've been trying to take this time that Andy's being sober to convince him to do shrooms, but he won't get. I've been trying to tell him because of his anxiety and shit. I really think that like the mushrooms would like help with that a little bit, at least one time, just experiencing it and getting that, going through that in your mind. Yeah. But I brought that up because I do know that you are in a psychedelic, so I got somebody to attack him with.
Yeah,
and get to do drugs.
100%. Andy, you got to do mushrooms. Well, because a lot of people think that because they have anxiety, that's why they shouldn't. but that's the exact reason why you should. And mushrooms is an amazing thing where if you just trust fall and let the trip happen instead of battling the feeling and trying to like be straight and normal, if you just completely go with it and green light it, you're gonna get to the other side with less anxiety. Because it'll make you confront some shit. It'll make you get to the bottom of certain things. It'll elate you to a level that you realize that this is real connectivity with our fellow people, with with nature, with whatever. If you do mushrooms correctly, it will change your life for the better.
But I got a friend who I just put him on to his first time a couple of weeks ago, and he texted me. He was like, because he's like a ladies man type dude, and he was like, I just text 8 different girls on my phone. I love them, and he's like, and I think I mean it.
He definitely did mean it. Yeah,
yeah. That's what I said to him. I was like, you do. If you get it, you do.
That's not a scumbag move. That means you're just shooting rainbows out of every pore of your body.
And they're just texting it back like, yeah, rainbows, sure.
But that's not to say everybody should do mushrooms. I don't want to give a blanket green light to people. If you have genuine mental illness like bipolar stuff, don't do it, because that can really trip some stuff and fuck with people, and I've seen it happen. And Kanye is a good example of that, actually, because he talked a lot about hallucinogens in like 2 records ago, and it's like, dude, if you're that slippery already mentally, you can't trip the wire like that. Like it could irrevocably fuck you up.
Yeah. All right. Well, I may have to cross a few things off the list then, just to double check on that, because I was well, no, dude, I had a moment today because I was listening to a podcast where a dude was describing his like bipolar disorder, and I was just like, I felt that. I felt that. And then I got freaked out, and I looked up like legitimate bipolar disorder, and I was like, okay. Yeah. So I was like, something's going on up there. It's not that though. Well, I might have to double check a few things first. But no, the thing that's been making me more open to it was we'd have moments on the podcast where because like I've been real more introspective since, pandemic and all this other stuff has happened. And I just, and I have been leaning towards that, like, we just got to love each other and da-da-da. And then like, there'd be this pause and Nate would just be like, Andy, you want to do mushrooms? And I'd be like,
yeah, like you don't know you want to do them, but you want to do them. Like your body wants to go through it.
I'm definitely inching closer. I gotta be honest about that.
Mushrooms completely recalibrated my morality code. Like I think it was always there, and the stuff that I find important now was definitely there, but I think it like polished the rock a little bit where it was just covered with some other egocentric shit.
Yeah, I 100% know the feeling you mean.
So yeah, because that's the other thing too, because I think sometimes I get too, like, I had this moment like I like the fucking other day, like I'm getting too up in my own shit about whatever fucking, like, people aren't watching enough of this thing I did, and then I get a message from my parents being like, oh, this family member has this illness, and then you like kind of step out of yourself for a second and realize, like, what the fuck am I complaining about? Right. And I definitely, I don't know where that was going. I'm a bad person is what I'm trying to say.
You're not a bad person. You just get caught up in stuff that everybody gets caught up in. But with the help of mushrooms and maybe even text therapy, you could just start kind of shrugging those things off. They'll never not bother you, because that shit bothers me. And, it's just something that, like, hopefully you learn to let it go quicker than getting just tangled up in that fucking ridiculous thought vortex.
Oh yeah, that would definitely be super helpful, because I'm the king of, like, yo, that thing that guy said to me 2 years ago, that was fucked up, and then that's just the next hour.
Are you Irish?
Yeah,
that makes sense. That's every Irish person, like, just hanging on to to grudges left and right, but never really vocalizing it or communicating it.
Oh yeah, I'm a real agreeable in a conversation, and then the second the conversation is over, I just go down everything I should have said.
Yeah. Well, I've seen my parents' families, like each side, like their siblings, argue about decade-old shit that they've never brought up before. Like I've seen both sides of the family do that. And that's like a real talent to hang on to something for 10 fucking years and then just slam it on somebody at like a backyard party.
This is terrible.
What was that?
That sounds like a terrible part of you guys' culture.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, but it's also entertaining because it just like, people are wild. They just, you never know what you're going to get with a fucking, an Irish family party in the backyard.
Well, it's great too because it's a real like 0 to 60 where you're all just like, yeah, so I was thinking about maybe hitting up Bed and Bath. Oh God, like it just. I
remember when you left us at Bed Bath and Beyond. I was 4 years old. I pissed my pants ever since, and it's like Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you just get hit with a fucking drive-by of a mental problem. I thankfully have this. No, trust me, I do want to do that where I want to confront someone about something that happened 3 years ago that I should have said something better, but I have that other voice to go, that's crazy.
That voice makes sense to me.
Yeah. No, I thankfully have that voice because like I told you last week, Nate, a lot of times I get people, if I tell them about my anxiety or whatever, they get surprised. And it's because I have that voice to be like, this is insane. Slow down, dude.
I mean, it's good. It's good that you have that moral barometer because some people don't and they just fucking green light everything.
Oh, yeah. They definitely green light fucking everything. I'm talking about way too much about myself.
No, that's great, man. We're getting to the bottom of you.
We're fucking figuring out. Yo, I'm going to fucking cancel my credit card on BetterHelp. Get the fuck out of here. I just got to do a podcast.
Yeah, dude. You just got to put Nate through hell every week with your emotional dumping on him.
So you do listen.
I mean, honestly, that's more or less what we do on our show, too. I just, I take my week out on Feeney and then he's passive aggressive.
Yeah, I definitely. One more week and I gotta start fucking paying Nate. It's getting too much.
You've been paying me. I know you've been waiting too long. This isn't new. This didn't just start.
I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this, Mike, in the fact that being a professional comedian and doing all that. I'm really curious, like where. It's kind of like a corny question, but like just in a general sense, like where do you see comedy going and stuff like that? Because I am genuinely curious to hear your perspective on that.
I mean, I don't know. I think it's fractured for sure, and there's like mainstream comedy, and then there's the comedy that people consume, and I don't know the stuff, the offshoot comedy, obviously, like, the big Patreons, the big podcasts, the big digital shows like Andrew Schultz, like everybody, all comedians are now independently producing their own stuff. They're putting out, clips, sketches, whatever on their YouTube channel. They're trying to build that up. So obviously, like, maybe there's going to be like networks of certain comics. I mean, there already is. There's collectives like All Things Comedy but I think big business and shit like that is always going to have a hand in it because how could it not? It makes money. So they're gonna flash enough bucks at somebody for them to fucking take it in lieu of freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah, you saw that with that's what cracked me up the most about YouTube, where that was supposed to be like the Wild West or whatever and a bunch of weird shit, and then immediately you start seeing like if you go to YouTube trending, it's always like a fucking Jimmy Fallon clip or whatever.
Yeah, and they pay for that.
Oh yeah, they do, don't they?
Yeah, of course. They throw a lot of money into the visibility of those videos, and it's like, that I guess you can, but the free market of the internet doesn't really exist. Like it does and it doesn't. You know what I mean? Certain things obviously squeeze through and they find their own thing. But even most of the big podcasts with like a huge YouTube following, they all have marketing people that they pay to elevate their videos and get their clips out of there. And that's just the game now. You have to spend money to get seen.
I was just reading a little story about just something on Reddit. It was they were talking about that guy Lil Nas X, and they were saying like how before he blew up like with that song, he was always on the top like page of like certain subreddits just from his Twitter presence, and it was but they were saying he got like accused of using like Twitter bots. It was like him and Lil Dicky they were talking about, but that just stuck out to me as like, oh shit, like these people are getting stupid famous just from like you said, spending money on getting themselves noticed.
Yeah.
Then going from there.
And you can't fault them, right? You know, it's I'm not mad at that. It just sucks to be somebody who is not making enough money to compete with that ad buy. Like I don't have the resources to do that. So it gets frustrating when, like, you know, it's supposed to be an independent, the good stuff gets to the top, but you know, not all the time, because it could get buried with everybody else putting out their own shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you run into the thing where that's the funny part about, like, oh, the internet, you know, we're taking away gatekeepers and blah blah blah, but also you have to learn how to be a marketing executive.
Yeah. We're now our own PR firm, agent, producer, writer, director, you know, editors and comedians.
But like you said, it's not something you could be mad at, though. It just is what it is now. Like
yeah.
It's adapt or die, dude. You know, I know a lot of people that were only doing stand-up, you know, city and then like a little road. They had very little social media presence. They definitely didn't have a podcast, and they were making all of their money on the road. And now they're like sitting on their dicks, not doing shit, like waiting for this to come back. And it's like, adapt or die, dude. You're going to have a different job in 6 months if you keep just fucking waiting around.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys, you and Feeney and Sagalo did that with what's the scenario?
Yeah. We started a Patreon, total separate podcast from Irish Goodbye, but it is, you know, it's Feeney and I, and then Brendan Sagalo, the three of us, and it's Patreon exclusive. And you know, it's like what you do with your boys, right? You toss around hypotheticals, scenarios, you know, all that type of shit. We take those questions from our Patreon listeners. They help build the show. We also release all of our content early, you know, to them, so they get the sneak peek. And you know, we're totally malleable in the sense that we want to turn it almost into a full functioning entertainment studio where it's like they're funding the content that we're making. If that can act as our budget and we can actually pull from that to create, that's the fucking goal, man. You know, you fund your own shit, people keep it going, and the interest, you know, completely is generated by the people.
That was real interesting to me too, because I noticed you were saying that, like, that whole show, What's the Scenario, is like audience driven, right?
Yeah, totally.
And do you like no, because I related to that, because I do, when I do my Twitch streams, a lot of times I'll do where, like, the audience will just be like, what do you guys want to talk about? What do you want to watch? Have you run into some, like, interesting curveballs that you were just like, oh shit, I didn't think we were going to go there tonight?
I mean, yeah, well, the people that signed up for it, like, you know, they are the hardest of the core fans of us three, because we don't have a free podcast to promote it on. Like, we promote it on Irish Goodbye briefly, but we're a part of Gas Digital, so I don't want to, like, I'm not trying to fuck that up with anything. And, you know, we're doing this purely because it's a different show, and it's, you know, it's a fucking pandemic, so we got to make some money. But so these people are really hardcore. They sought this out and found it, and so they know us so well that they'll, like, ask a specific question about a moment in our childhood that we offhandedly said in an episode 3 years ago.
That's a dope level of a fan base to have now, though. Like, that level of interaction. I feel like I don't know it, but it seems like that's got to be a nice, like, not 1-to-1, but the closest. I mean,
it's more or less close to 1-to-1. But yeah, it's great. You know, when people take that much interest in not only your work but you as a human being, like, yeah, that's what's cooler than that.
I had a fucking because I got a few fucking people, like I said, who watch me on Twitch. Like, I had it the other day where the dude hit me up and he's like, hey, tell your wife happy birthday. And I was like, what'd you say? And I'm like, oh wait, they like my shit, that's why they know that.
Let's hope.
Yeah. Regardless, that's still hilarious. Like, your wife happy birthday.
Yeah, unless she's got an OnlyFans floating around I don't know about, which
that's a way to make money.
Okay, so we're getting to the end, and I'm really curious about this because you're a big fan of Rad, Mike.
Yeah, the biggest.
I'm really curious because I haven't seen the movie yet. I watched a trailer for it. I didn't hate it, but I was still confused. What is it about Rad?
Mm-hmm.
Nate, if you don't know what Michael explain. What is it about Rad that fucking gets you going?
So it's like a lot of things. This is a meaty question when it definitely should not be. But Rad is a
take your time, dude.
It's a BMX movie from 1986. It's like a classic 80s movie. You know, a classic in the sense of how it was constructed. It actually didn't do well when it first came out. It became slowly a cult classic through like, you know, video stores and Captain America's and Blockbusters and all that shit. And you know, it was one of the first almost like viral analog stories where that tape just got passed around so much that it became like this weird swelling fan base. But it's about, you know, it's like a come from behind story about a kid from a small town competing against corporate interests with Mongoose and like all these big bike companies. And he ends up, spoiler alert, he ends up winning at the end. But I grew up in a neighborhood in Fort Montgomery. It was right outside of West Point. And I grew up in this place with all boys. All of them were older than me. All of them had BMX bikes. I watched this movie when I was 3. I learned how to ride a 2-wheeler when I was 4. I was going off jumps at 4.5, like because of this movie, because of the older boys. And like that memory and feeling and attachment to that part of my life is why I've loved this movie forever. And I've seen it no less than like 300 or 400 times.
Oh, shit. I just looked at pictures of it. It looks ridiculous. I didn't mean to.
Yeah. You know, no. It's totally fair. Anytime I try to explain this to people, I'm like, I don't know if you'll like it. Like, chances are you probably won't. It's an 80s movie. It's definitely like ridiculous. But that said, if you meet somebody that like in college, I met like 3 people that knew the movie, were friends still. just because of that. Yeah, you just have that connection. And I got surprised. I was a guest on Jim Norton and Sam Roberts like 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And so I saw that Rad has just came out. Actually, weirdly enough, I named my son after the lead character. His name is Crew, and CRU. And the first time the movie ever came out on demand was on my son Crew's first birthday.
So it just hit on Friday?
Yeah, which is so crazy. So I saw Sam Roberts got like the DVD sent to him. He got it. He posted it on social media. I put a Rad background as like the virtual background on my Zoom and popped in, and they're like, "Oh, hey, what's up, man?" And they're like, "Nice Rad background." I'm like, "Yeah, you know, I saw you got the movie, Sam. That's cool." Like, just, you know, I was just going to kick off a conversation or whatever. And Sam's like, "Well, it's crazy. The reason why we brought you in is because we are surprising you with the cast of Rad." And they fucking surprised me with Bill Allen, who was Crew Jones, Bart Connor, who played Bart Taylor, the bad guy, who was an Olympic gold medalist for the United States in gymnastics, and Talia Shire, Rocky's wife, who played the mother, Crew's mother, and she produced the movie with her husband.
Wait, was it like, oh, did he literally surprise you, or was it just a scheduling thing?
He surprised me. Sam knew they were coming on, and then asked me the night before to do the show. But he never told me, alluded to it, or anything like that. I was like fighting back tears for 45 minutes while we interviewed these people, and like, I mean, you know, it's funny because they just made me realize that I kind of work for the movie without realizing it, because he was the guy who played Crew Jones was like busting my balls lightly about naming my son Crew. But he was like, honestly, dude, that's awesome, because your son is going to have to explain to people where he got that name. And because of that, the movie will live on. I was like, oh shit! So I'm a fucking marketing rep for Rad just through biology.
No, it's a great point, because like Crew is a specific name. Mm-hmm. Oh, he's gonna get to a certain age though, being like the goddamn name, because really having to explain it
for sure. Yeah, but at least it's easy to spell.
Yeah, for sure. Wasn't there also like a crazy thing with like like you couldn't get the DVD?
Yeah, it was tough. I remember in college, like when eBay and all that stuff was not when it was just coming out, but when it was like really in full swing, everybody would look for it, and they'd have bootlegs and shit like that, but they'd come and they'd be empty. You know, it would just be a mess. So they haven't had a proper release since 1986 until this past Friday, the 24th.
I just have a dream, a thing I'll be hoping for you forever. It has nothing to do with your own aspirations, but I hope they reboot the movie and cast you at some role in it.
Yeah. Oh man, I want to play the drunk guy that's the head of Mongoose. Duke Best. If I could play Duke Best in the next one, I'll gain 100 pounds for that part.
So it really had that's real funny. I didn't realize it had. I thought it was because I remember like Tosh brought it up on an episode once before, and
Never been more jealous.
I thought it was like a run, like just a running bit, and then I remember hearing you bring it up, and I was just like, oh no, this is a lifestyle.
Yeah, dude. I'm a member of the Rad group on Facebook, and it gets real intense in there. I've bought not one but 2 BMX bikes during quarantine that I'm fixing up. It's like I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm falling ass backwards into regression.
No, I get it, dude. I saw you post the BMX bike, and then I went to my parents, and my dad was like throwing stuff out, and I saw my old BMX bike. He was like ready to throw it out, and there was a part of me being like, maybe I'll fix it up. Maybe I'll fix it up.
You should.
Yeah,
it's the best. I bought the pads for my Mongoose. I bought the Crew Jones pads from the movie Rad.
Nice. Dude, I still think about, I'll go every couple months being like, I should get a skateboard. You know what I mean?
You should.
We should all just do.
If you have health insurance, there's no reason not to.
That's a really good point. That's a really good point. I'm going out the second this podcast is over. I'm figuring out where'll let me get a skateboard.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, hey, we're getting about to the end. I think this is a good place to wrap it up. Mike, from me and Nate, thank you so much for coming on, man. This is a great episode.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. You guys are the best.
Yeah. Do you want to throw out plugs or whatever?
Yeah. Just add at I am Mike Cannon on every single social media. My YouTube has my special. It has my first hour up there as well. It's Mike Cannon Comedy on YouTube. I have a ton of stand-up sketches, all that shit. And watch my movie Timing on Amazon Prime. But if you live in any other country besides America and the UK and want to see it, just DM me. I'll get you a copy.
Hell yeah. Go check that out. Mike's super funny. Guys, gals, until next time, have a good one. Be about it. Peace.
Appreciate you guys.